Hello, I'm James Sykes, CEO, President, Director of Baselode Energy, here with Cameron McKay, VP Exploration Baselode, and we're here to talk about some of the assay results that we have put out in the last few weeks, just to give a little bit more context on what we're seeing there and what some of it really means. So some of the forward-looking statements, if we can click through here. ACKIO, this is what it looks like. Cam, can you kind of give a quick little rundown, a little bit of an explanation on this one?
So this is the plan view map of the surface expression of the mineralized lenses that we've encountered to date at ACKIO. The dark red one is the shallowest and also happily the best grade. And then the other three occur at various depths below surface. But generally speaking, everything's sort of, from the base of the overburden at 25 meters below down to our deepest intersection is about 225 meters below surface.
Now, in the last few news releases we've put out, you can kind of see the bold numbers there, and they are mostly to the center and south of ACKIO. So that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to start off by looking at section 875 north. And this is where we've got holes 69, 51, 52, and 53. So hole 53, 0.43 over 18.9 meters, starting at a vertical depth of 97 meters. Very encouraging. What's going on geologically? Why is this there, Cam?
I think the understanding that we're coming to is that ACKIO is a basement hosted structurally controlled system, and there's sort of two main lithostructural controls for the mineralization. The first one being a lithology contact between basically a metasedimentary domain, that's the brown there, and then a orthogneiss domain, so an intrusive domain that's in the green there, and that's sort of our granite calc silicates. And we'll talk more another time about what exactly those are, but that lithology contact, and then at the intersection of that lithology contact and these normal faults, which you can see as the black lines, we tend to get our best mineralization associated where those two things meet. And so those normal faults, as you can see, there's that yellow there, that's the Athabasca sandstone that's dropped down because of this normal faulting. And so we have a series of these stacked that tend to control the best mineralization. And again, at that lithology contact and the contact with those structures is where we get the best results.
Interesting to note that hole 53 is underneath the sandstone. Is that a problem? Because I've personally gone on and said many times in some videos that you don't want to have sandstone. What does this sandstone mean for us?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about it is it's kind of a vector because where we have it, we can kind of project out that main fault, and that's where we tend to find our mineralization. And fortunately for us, there's very, very, very precious little of it. So it's not going to be a major issue. We don't have hundreds of meters of sandstone. We can basically treat it as like an extension of the overburden.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. No water issues coming from that one. That should be no issues at all. Okay, now we've got the next pod over, holes 51. Again, outstanding results, 0.5% over 29 meters, starting at 28 from surface, so right at that overburden contact. Hole 52, same thing. As soon as we hit bedrock, boom, you're hitting mineralization, about 0.6% over 28 meters, starting at the same vertical depth. And then we've got hole 69, which is our best drill hole to date, 0.9% over 31 meters. And that starts at 69 meters vertical depth too. So we see a lot of high-grade mineralization within that corridor, within that structural route.
Yeah, that's right. And that 69 too, like it's got, that 12 and a half meters of 1.86. It seems like you can see that like there's sort of yellow, orange, and red boxes along the drill hole traces for the holes that we have assays. And so all that red in hole 69, that's all mineralization above 1%. So it seems like there's a high-grade core to that particular lens there too, which is exciting.
Very much exciting. We've also got hole 70 that we're still waiting for results on, which looks like it's just above hole 69. And if not mistaken, from the scintillometer, that was what, 50 meters of radioactivity, I think. There was quite a lot in there.
Yeah, we should point out too, like the dark drill hole traces are the ones that we have assay results for, and then the ones that are lighter we don't have assay results for, but you can see they obviously intersect our lenses, and that's based on our downhole gamma and our scintillometer data.
All right, thanks for that. Hole 63, which is in a different little pod further to the west, and where we've got basically 50 meters of mineralization, and at a little bit lower grades than what we just saw in the last one, but still quite encouraging.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's another super shallow, pod. It's basically right at surface. So, yeah, no, it's exciting that we continue to see these stacked lenses repeating themselves.
I like the idea of stepping west of hole 69 and seeing what else is within this mineralization, because hopefully we just, like, if you look at that where hole 69 is, there's a lot of yellow on the edges of the red. So what are the chances that where hole 63 was, we're skimming something? Maybe there's
that's
something
exactly
much,
right. Let's hope there's another high grade core to that one, right? So
yeah, it'd be huge. All right, what about this? Okay, what's going on in here? Because I think this will have an impact about what we talk about down the rest of the presentation, but also in our future exploration plans.
So that one, again, like it's a similar story with the intersecting structures and the lithology contact too. But it's like, as you can see, our sediments there are pinching out towards surface there. So I guess that's something to keep in mind as we go forward.
Okay, so sediments pinching out. We've got a structure there. Let's jump down 50 meters. Look at the section with hole 38. So section 825 north. So now we're for 50 meters south of what we just looked at. And here we are. Here's hole 38, the only one that we've reported on this section because we don't have assays back from anything else. But still good grades, 0.22 over 6.5 meters. And what was very encouraging about this one is that the highest grades were encountered right at that overburden and basement rock contact. So yeah, quite excited about that.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that we know from the radiometrics that shallow pod continues along strike. So yeah, await results.
Yeah, and we have, based on the scintillometer results, hole 39, which would be the shallowest, or not the shallowest, but I think it was one of the holes, 39 or 40, where they intersect that big red pod underneath the sandstone. Radioactivity results were stellar over there, and then same with the pod furthest to the west. But as per the last section, up in this area, what's going on here now? We lost that intersection that we saw in hole 63. It's not the same. Looks like the structure isn't there, and it looks like the sediments haven't pinched out as previously. So I don't know. Any guidance on this?
I'm guessing we'll touch on this a little bit later, but I think that we have the geometry of this synform. So the synform is basically like the basement stuff where we have the sediment sitting on top of our orthogneisses. I think that litho contact is bending, and so it's going off in a different direction, and so we need to chase that contact.
Okay, so in a different direction. So here we are, 825 north. Could it be that we're seeing a structure that is cross-cutting the mineralization that we know today, and it could be offsetting, or maybe even that whole 63 corridor is not in that northwest southeast orientation? Maybe it's something a little bit perpendicular to it, where we're seeing a northeast southwest orientation. Because when you look at the mineralization, that big pink blob to the south of here, south of the blue line, you see a sharp contact in this direction as well. So could this be a reason why that pod of mineralization may not be where we drilled it on that fence?
Yeah, I think it's bending, whether it's like completely structural and that it's offset, or if it has something to do with just the morphology of the synform. Remains to be seen, but I do think it is bending in that orientation.
Okay, let's jump. Oh yeah, and I guess the complexity of some of these deposits. You can follow these things for a few hundred meters on strike, and then all of a sudden you can have a gap between the mineralization and your orientation changes completely. This is not something that, you know, this is not a new phenomenon. This happens in a lot of other deposits globally in different commodities. So this is just something that we have to keep cognizant of when trying to determine which way to drill and where to drill for ACKIO.
Yeah, completely agree. And I'll be surprised if we don't find another pod disconnected from the main one that we've been drilling off at some point here.
Very positive, very positive. All right, 725. This is kind of an important section because the mineralization starts to really pinch out in this area. And this is kind of where we're going to build on this, what we're just looking at with the potential for the synform wrapping around, but and also different structural controls. But one thing I want to point out in this area too is right around holes 10 and also holes 54 to 56, all the way down to 31 and 33. So south of that green line, that's where we're getting definitely our best anomalous sandstone results. It's encouraging because the sandstone, as you mentioned earlier, is a vector. And you know, if I'd seen that results without seeing mineralization here in the sandstone, I'd be flipping out. It'd be very exciting. So hopefully there is something down in this direction, but let's have a look at this section. Hole 47 was the big one from this one. 1.7% over 7.5 meters. Again, starting within 100 meters of surface, very encouraging, but it's that same deposit that is right underneath the sandstone, basically. So we've seen 150 meters of very strong high-grade mineralization continuing along that strike orientation. But what seems to be happening to everything else in the area? I see a lot of dark lines with no red with them.
Yeah, no, those upper ones just don't seem to be there on this one. But I again, like I think it's bent and it's further to the west is my gut feeling, but it's something that we're going to have to drill test to find out.
Okay, still seeing some pretty good results though as well down in hole 45. That there is, yeah, there's a lot of mineralization at depth still along that major fault control. So as you mentioned earlier, that fault control is very important.
Yeah.
That main normal fault. That's our fluid pathway.
That's right. Which is why it's encouraging to see those, you know, those sandstone anomalies increasing as we're moving further to the south too. So potentially better fluids we're moving through them. We just haven't found where they ended up.
Yeah, very cool. Lines 600 north and 550 north. Both of these, with the scintillometer and the assay results, came back as no significant mineralization. Does that mean that there was no uranium down there? The answer very shortly is no. That doesn't mean that. There was mineralization down there. It's just below our cutoff. And the chart should say greater than 0.01% eutherioid. That's my fault for that, unfortunately. But that's what we're reporting these results at a 0.01% cutoff. So everything else that we've put out in press release has always been at a 0.05%. And you can see the mineralization down here. There's hole 42, which had 0.03% over 4 meters, so still very encouraging. Then hole 43 had 0.01% over 0.1 meters. So there is still mineralization down here. And we will build on these on later in the later presentation when we do have all the results back. But just for initial sake, there's still considered to be mineralization down here, 0.04% over 0.1 meters. And in a few sections ago on hole 725, where we had drill holes, holes 54 to 56, which were drilled east of the Athabasca sandstone, or at least went under it and beyond there, there was absolutely no mineralization. Whereas we are now starting to see mineralization out in this area, especially with hole 62. So when we take these sections and we highlight section 600 north, and here are the intercepts in red, and then we throw on 550 on top of it, right correlating with each other, and you can start to see that the mineralization is now shallower as we go to the south. And then we're also seeing more mineralization as we go towards the east of the sandstone. So is this one of these scenarios where where you have a gap. You have a gap between your mineralized envelopes, something like Rough Rider West and Rough Rider East, where there's 100 meters between those two. And then you've got 50 meters between the east and the far east deposit with no notable mineralization. Similarly at Raven and Horseshoe, where between both of those deposits, you've got 500 meters of no significant mineralization. Is that what we are seeing in this area? And especially now that now that we're kind of seeing that section furthest to the south has shallower mineralization, and I would say more sniffs of it with the sandstone anomalies too. That southeast still looks pretty enticing, still looks pretty hot.
Oh yeah, no, we do. There's definitely more to do there. I mean, we've talked about this a whole bunch of times, that like we shouldn't panic and nobody should panic when this pinches out, because the odds of it coming back, like if you look at all the analogs in the basin and or in the Athabasca Basin and outside of it as well. I mean, these things come and go, and it's just how it is. So there's still much upside exploration potential, even if this is, sort of the extensive ACKIO, call it 1. Like then hopefully we find 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? So.
All right. Can you explain what's going on here?
So this is where I was talking about why I think things are kind of bending towards the west. You can see the mag high there, which I think is broadly analogous to our orthogneiss domain, like our igneous intrusives, whereas like the blue mag lows seems to correspond with our metasedimentary domain. And you can see it kind of bends to the southwest there. And I think that's a lithology contact. So that's that lithology contact that seems to be really important for controlling mineralization. So I think if we go further to the west as we go south, that the hypothesis is that's where we're going to find the next piece of this.
Okay. All right. So as we've been drilling to the southeast. There is still a trend going in that direction as well.
Yeah.
And as we talked about, line 725, and that's where you say you can visibly see it right on this map, that everything that green to blue transition, which is above the black line, is oriented to the northwest. Now that is oriented to the southwest on the other side of the black line. And so that's what Cam's talking about the fold, about the syncline, and everything just changes direction. So we have the targeting to the southwest. So now we still have both kind of areas that are open for exploration, and situations like this are not the easiest to explore for. It's not everything condensed into one little area. You do have to put a little bit more effort into it. And as you just mentioned, you can't panic about having dusters. So we will attempt to explore for both in the coming 12 months, coming 24 months. We will assess as we go. But regionally, you can see those trends as well. That your regional trend, which is that main one in the orientation that we're now looking at, that would be probably the first structure within the area. And then as ACKIO develops, or the structures prior to ACKIO develop, they're systematically repeating within the area, but they all seem to be in that southeast northwest orientation. So we do see evidence of both sets of potential structures, not just at ACKIO, but in other areas as well. So highly encouraging.
Yeah, no, there's lots to do.
All right, Cam, you got to find a lot more deposits.
Let's get doing it.
All right. So what's next? Hopefully people understood what we were talking about in there. That's, we're very encouraged by a lot of the grades that we're seeing, especially that near surface mineralization. Everything that we're seeing to the south does continue, but we're also seeing evidence for a lot of these trends to continue, where to the layman doesn't look like they do continue. So there's a lot going on at ACKIO, and it will take more drilling. But what's next coming down our pipes? Some more assays result as they keep coming out. I really can't wait for the nickel results. I'm very curious about that. We've got to do a Rabbit Lake comparison, because I think that is one of the best analogs to ACKIO, maybe even Clough Lake as well. We will eventually talk about cutoffs, dilution, and intersection widths, and why we report the way we do. Some very cool mining ideas we're looking at. I'm very excited to see some some of the high level stuff that we're doing and kind of get that out to the investment community. But we need all the assays back before that, and the sandstone. And sandstone is a blank canvas, and when you've got paint on that blank canvas, you can paint yourself a nice pretty picture, and that's what the sandstone is doing for us. So really it looks like that southeast area is pretty hot, but we'll get there in a later presentation once we have all that sandstone data back. We also want to hear from you. We want to hear from the people watching this as well. What we should be doing next. What do you guys, or what don't you understand about ACKIO or our plans? And we can gear some of these future presentations towards what you would be interested in learning. We're here to help people understand what's going on, and we will definitely take the time to do so. Cam, anything else before we go?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you very much for people who have watched this. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, we want to hear from you, so please don't be afraid to email us. Watch us on YouTube. Email addresses are right there. Be happy to hear from you. Send us some messages on social media, and yeah, we'll get back to you. Thank you very much.